Hello and welcome to our 6th day of our beginners series. I've got my whiteboard here today. Just want to go through a tiny little bit of anatomy of breathing and how your breathing actually works. Because whilst it's something we do kind of subconsciously and we have an idea of how to breathe, the Pilates breathing technique is a little bit specific. So here we have got our human body. Okay, so we've got the torso and the legs here. Now, in the middle of the rib cage, you have got your diaphragm, which you've probably heard of. This is essentially like a big balloon that all of the air rushes into. At the base, we have got our pelvic floor. Okay, so that's kind of like the top and the bottom of our kind of intra-abdominal cavity there. And then we've got all of these muscles that wrap around the sides, the front and the back of the body, that again help to keep our organs in place and keep our skeleton in position. So when we then take a breath in, what happens is the breath comes into the diaphragm, okay? The diaphragm then expands, so it balloons bigger. Okay, if you imagine that like a balloon, it balloons outwards, it balloons down, and it suddenly becomes a much bigger kind of organ, all right? Now this presses your waist out, so you might notice when you take a breath in, your belly and your waist feel bigger, okay? It also, this expansion, this internal pressure pushes your pelvic floor down a little bit in many cases, okay? So there's so much pressure in there that everything just kind of gets pushed out. Think of a balloon, it's quite a simple way of thinking of it. Now, when you then exhale, that all kind of recoils back in. So the diaphragm becomes this smaller vessel again. The waist kind of starts to come in a little bit, okay? But this also has the added effect of your pelvic floor being able to rise and lift and contract a little bit more effectively, okay? So this gives us this idea of diaphragmatic breathing, where you inhale, your diaphragm expands, everything expands. And as you exhale, everything kind of recoils. Muscles contract, become shorter, pelvic floor contracts, becomes shorter. And we know that this shortening, this contraction, is where we get a lot of our strength from. We get a lot of our pelvic floor support and a lot of our abdominal support for the skeleton. Come to sit somewhere comfortably for a moment and let's have a feel and a practice of that. So if you just want to place your hands somewhere on your belly or on your sides, you can hold anywhere really here. The lower belly I think is a good place. You get quite a lot of feedback there. Relax your shoulders and just take a really big breath in. And a breath out. And you'll feel this expansion as you inhale. And this kind of recoiling as you exhale. So you can feel that in the lower tummy. If you place your hands now to the sides of the body, you might be able to feel the sides moving. Now this is a breath that we are calling a diaphragmatic breath, so it's in sort of the ribs and the belly, not across the chest and the shoulders. If you're breathing into your chest and shoulders, it tends to be much more shallow breathing, and that kind of breathing you use when you're in like flight or fight mode, and that adrenaline fueled, shorter, sharper breaths. But we can get these deep breaths into the diaphragm and into that intra-abdominal cavity by just focusing. Take 2 more deep breaths here. Nice. Now if you're comfy, still seated, please sit. If you'd rather lie down, please lie down. We're going to have a look at this pelvic floor idea and how we can use this diaphragmatic breathing to actually breathe out and exhale, and the pelvic floor draws up. And as we inhale, we've said that air rushing into intra-abdominal cavity pushes down on the pelvic floor, so it kind of releases and lengthens those pelvic floor muscles. So let's have a go at that. Feel free to sit, or you might prefer to lie down with me. Once you've found a comfortable position, just placing your hands on your lower tummy again. just kind of below belly button, but above pubic area. And I'm going to ask you to take a nice big breath in. As you exhale, draw your pelvic floor up. As you inhale, push it down and away. Exhale, draw your pelvic floor up. Inhale, your pelvic floor pushes down and away. That pelvic floor is that sensation of closing and lifting sensation. And inhale, push it away. Exhale, that closing and lifting sensation. Inhale, lengthen, push it away from you. So you're thinking about those pelvic floor muscles drawing up as you exhale, finding that contraction. And as you inhale and fill your intra-abdominal cavity with breath, you can push your pelvic floor away quite easily. Have a few more rounds. Inhale, exhale. So we're using this inhale, exhale to our advantage. We're combining it really sensibly with a pelvic floor engagement and a pelvic floor release. And rest there. So this is all well and good, but mostly when we're working through our Pilates exercises, we can't just be letting our pelvic floor relax, okay, on every repetition. We often need some sort of low-level support through the pelvic floor and through the abdominals. So we need these to remain on and active all of the time. So we move away from what we call the diaphragmatic breathing technique. We're still going to be using our diaphragm, but we're moving on to a Pilates technique, which is often called lateral breathing, or might be heard of as ribcage breathing as well. So for ribcage breathing, I'm going to suggest that you get up and grab a resistance band if you've got one. If you don't have one, don't worry, you can just use your hands for this next bit and join me in a seated position. If you don't have a band with you today, take your hands and find your ribcage. So if you poke up, you'll find bony bits above your waist, and I want you to wrap your hands around the side of your ribs. If you've got your band, we're going to place that in the same place, nice and thick and wide on the band, comes around the back of the rib cage, crosses over just underneath the pectorals, and you're going to pull that fairly tight so you can feel a little bit of restriction around the ribs. Okay. So pelvic floor needs to just rise slightly, so that's a closing and a lifting sensation. We're going to engage through our abdominals, so that's drawing your beeline in as we discussed in previous sessions. Exhale, get rid of all of the breath from your body. And when you're ready, inhale and push into your band, expanding the ribs into the band. Exhale, you can release. I find it really nice to close the eyes for this as well, just to tune in. So you've got your pelvic floor lifted, your beeline drawing in. You're breathing into your rib cage and expanding the pressure in the band or into the hands. Pelvic floor still lifting, beeline still drawing in. And we're getting this lateral breathing, so called because you can feel your rib cage expanding widthways. Really nice technique. Remember to avoid that breath, that shallow breath in the chest and shoulders. We're really trying to expand the diaphragm and expand the rib cage wide. Pelvic floor lifting still, beeline still on. Now don't worry if this isn't clicking perfectly today, okay? I tend to like to teach the movements and add the breath in as a little add-on to enhance the movements. Still focusing on finding that expansion of the rib cage. If you're not sure if this is working, it might be really nice to do in front of a mirror and you can see exactly what's going on. You can see if your shoulders and your chest are lifting and lowering. We want to keep those nice and relaxed. And taking a few more breaths here with some low-level core engagement, okay? releasing there. So maybe you've managed that, maybe you just need to have a little bit of a practice, maybe a rewind, go over that again. But that should have explained and demonstrated how you can engage your pelvic floor and your core, so you've got this stability in our abdominals while still maintaining a deep and quality breath, okay? A nice slow, full quality breath that is going to accompany our exercises. Now we're going to try this in another position just to make sure that we've got the technique right. We're going to try this lying down, but the next bit you might want an object to place on your belly. So maybe that's a book, or you could grab a bag of rice, something with a tiny bit of weight to it. So if you want to grab that now and join me on the mat. So laying down comfortably, place your heavy object on your lower tummy. So as low down as you can on the tummy. Taking the hands and placing them on the rib cage as we did before, we're looking for our lateral breathing technique here. First off, engaging your pelvic floor, so that's that closing and lifting sensation. Drawing in through your beeline, you might feel your object lower down a little bit as the lower tummy has contracted and engaged. Now, this object, whether it's a book, whether it's your bag of rice, shouldn't move up and down with your breath. We're going to try and keep that nice and still because we're keeping those abs drawn in. Okay, so exhale, get rid of all of the breath from the body. And then when you're ready to inhale, breathe into your rib cage and push your hands open. Exhale, releasing. Inhale into the ribs. Exhale, releasing. So maintaining this core engagement, maintaining this kind of stillness in the lower abdominals, and still managing to get a really nice full quality breath. Expanding your ribcage widthways. And if you forget or something lets go, don't worry. Reset, engage your core again, engage your pelvic floor and reset your breath. It's very easy to get distracted. There's too many things to think about here. Pelvic floor rising, beeline drawing in. And breathing into the ribs. And one more breath. Release, relax. You can place that object off your belly now and just take a nice stretch to reset the body. Stretch the toes down to the bottom end of the mat. Stretch the hands up to the top end and have that full length stretch. Breathe any way you like to for now. And bring your feet and your arms back in. Let's take this into some tabletop leg positions. So we want to be able to move as well as breathe. Finding your neutral, thinking about that lumbo-pelvic connection here. So find your neutral low back. Drawing pelvic floor on, drawing beeline in. We inhale to prepare. Exhale, lift a knee to tabletop. Now, are you still in neutral? Have you imprinted your lower back into the mat? If your back has pushed into the mat, we're going to reset. We're going to do this again. So finding neutral. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, lifting your knee to tabletop legs. Inhale, prepare. Re-engage, lift the second leg. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, take a foot down. Inhale, hold. Exhale, move the other foot down. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, lift a knee. Inhale. Re-engage, lift knee number 2. Inhale. One leg down. Inhaling. Second leg down. Really well done. Now, if you need a little bit of extra feedback, feel free to put that book or that bag of rice back onto your belly and see how this works. The other thing you could do is to bring your band back in and wrap that around your rib cage if you were finding those really useful techniques. We're going to repeat neutral spine, pelvic floor rising, beeline engaging, inhaling. Exhale, knee lifts. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, lift second knee. Inhale, hold. Foot down. Inhale, hold. Exhale, foot down. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, knee raise. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, second knee raise. Inhale, hold. Exhale, foot down. Inhale, hold. Exhale, feet down. Really nice. Just have a moment to let your breathing settle. It's quite tough, okay? It's quite tough. You can see I was holding you on the inhale and moving on the exhale, because as a general rule of thumb, we tend to exhale on the harder part of the exercise, which in this case was the moving and the transitioning, okay? And that exhale on the hard bit is a really good rule of thumb to kind of go by, just because we know when we exhale, as we said at the beginning of the session, your waist kind of recoils back in, everything contracts, pelvic floor lifts. It's at the moment where we're the most stable around the skeleton, around the spine, around the spinal structure, is on that exhale. So if you can combine that with the tougher part of the exercise, it just makes loads of sense, okay? It's not to say that there's a right or wrong way of breathing, there's just kind of more helpful ways and less helpful ways, okay? So let's take this into some overhead reaches. Now, we've practiced this in previous videos. We again find our neutral, we find our pelvic floor engagement, we find our beeline engagement. We start by taking an inhale for an overhead reach, breathing into the rib cage, and an exhale to bring the hands beside the body. Inhale for the overhead reach, breathing into the ribs. Exhale. So this kind of makes sense. As your arms go overhead, you get this wide breath into the ribs. And as you exhale, you bring the hands beside you. Try and avoid the ribs and the chest kind of popping up or popping open if we can. So there's a widening, but there isn't a flaring and a popping up, if that makes sense. Keep drawing in through beeline, imagining that book on your belly still. And one more like this. And relax. I'm going to complicate things now by changing the breathing, the order of the breathing. So this time, as you take your overhead reach, that will be your exhale. Okay, so as we've said, in an exhale, it's much easier to contract and engage, so that should feel much stronger. Hands beside the body to start with. Cue that pelvic floor. Cue that beeline. Inhale in this preparation position. Exhale, overhead reach, keeping the bottom rib kind of connected to the pelvis. Inhale, return the arms to the hips. Exhale for the overhead reach. Inhale, returning the arms. Exhale, overhead reach. Remember, you're inhaling into your ribs. Find that wide rib cage breath. Exhale. Inhale, arms beside the body. Exhale, overhead reach. Good. Beeline still drawing in strong. We've got 2 more rounds. And final overhead reach. Bringing the arms back in. And pause. Okay, really, really good. I know that is quite a lot of effort in the core, quite a lot of thought in the breath work, but actually it's quite a lot for the old brain as well. So take a few moments to just kind of bring yourself around and get yourself settled. Now, I never promise that breathing is easy to grasp, okay? It often takes a little bit of work. It can take a few weeks or months to actually feel like, yeah, this is really enhancing the movement, because I think it's very distracting initially. A lot of people get very caught up in, am I breathing correctly? Ultimately, you can breathe in and out whenever you want. Your core, your muscles should work on an inhale and they should also work on an exhale. So it's not like you're going to be without internal support and structure, okay? You should be able to breathe at any point. But as you get along your Pilates journey, you'll notice how this kind of exhaling on the hard bits is going to really enhance the exercise. You'll notice how we're able to keep the pelvic floor and the core on and active a little bit more. And these are really, really useful things in your Pilates practice. So that brings us towards the end of most of the theory. Tomorrow or next week or whenever you decide to watch it, we have got our final 7th day, which is going to bring together everything we've learned, and it's going to be just a full lesson involving all of the theories and techniques. So I look forward to seeing you then, and thank you once again for joining me.